It is October. I am going to now put my pond to bed for the winter. Last time we were here in May, I was opening up my pond, which was way more fun, but now it's time to put it away. I've noticed that I have a significant decrease in water level. So before I take everything apart, I'm going to look around and see if I can find where the leak is coming from. I'm going to cut down some of the foliage that's growing in the pond, but that can all stay there for the winter. It's all hardy. So once I cut that all down, I'll probably leave my sedum because they're pretty. I can still see them from inside. And once I get that done, then I'm going to start disassembling the pump. Okay, so I cut down my foliage and I have been investigating here, and I've got two places that could be causing my reduced water level. One is right over here where the liner is damp, and I think perhaps the water is going over the edge of the liner, and I might be losing a little bit there. Another place is over here, and when I pulled this aside, this rock was pulling the liner back instead of pushing it up, letting some of the water escape. So I think that may have been my problem. When I turn the pump off and I get it all closed up for the winter, if I don't have any more loss of water, then I'll know that that was my problem and I don't have a hole in my liner. To keep anything from crawling into the bucket through the hose, I wrap the end of this with some saran wrap. Very highly technical method here. And then I wrap it with some foil. It stays nice and tight. Put a rubber band around the end. I lift up the rock that it's under and just direct it back toward the garden for the winter. If you watched me open up my pond in the spring, you saw me put this together. So I'm gonna take it apart now. Oh, hello, frog. So I have a frog living here. Here he is. Come on. Out you go. Ah! That way. There you go. So I put these in the spring and they were completely clean filters. And now they are absolutely sodden, full of mucky goo. And I'm going to rinse those out the best I can. And I just leave them outside for the winter. And they are perfectly fine in the spring, but they have done their job. They filtered all this out from going into the pond and kept my pond clean all summer long. And then I have my bag of lava rock down here that I'm going to drag out toward you. And it is a mess and a half of muck and goo as well. So I'm going to pull that out. There. And I'll rinse all this stuff out to get it as clean as I can before I store it again. Now down in my bottom of my bucket, I have some PVC pieces that support the lava rock off the bottom of the bucket. Take those out. Oh, another frog. Oh, a big one. Come here. Oh, look at him, monster. Oh. He thought he was going to hibernate in there all winter, but that wasn't going to work. So now I just get all this extra water out of the bottom of the bucket, because not all of it will drain out through the hose. And all this goo on the edges. This is much less fun than putting it together in the spring, but it's also much quicker. Whoop, another frog. We had quite a party going on here this summer. Come here, frog. Where are you? There you are. Wow. It's not bad for starting out the year with no frogs. Once the water settles, you'll also see that I have some new fish this year. Apparently the fish had a little party too. We have some baby fish. Then I just take some rags to soak up the last of the water in the bucket. Squeeze them clean. This is not a dress-up job. All right. You want to get all the water out because you don't want it to freeze and crack your bucket. All right. Water out. Then I can just put my PVC bits back in. Mud off of them, but it'll just dry out over the winter. All right. Then I have an amazingly technical way of keeping my pond pump bucket dry for the winter, and that involves a log, a basketball, a piece of noodle, some weed fabric, and a garbage can lid. So I'm going to wrap up this piece of noodle in some weed fabric. And the only reason I'm wrapping it in black weed fabric is because I don't want to look out my kitchen window and see a bright orange piece of noodle sticking out of my pond all winter. And I'll put this here to keep any of those frogs from deciding that that bucket was really a nice home to crawl back into for the winter and getting stuck and dying. Let's see. It always takes a little figuring about how this works every year. Maybe it's just the log. What I need this for is you have to support the garbage can lid so it doesn't collapse into the bucket too far. You want it to hold the snow off. There. That ought to do it. Yeah. Okay. Don't need the basketball this year. Okay, then I'm going to get black plastic and wrap it around and under the edge of the pond bucket here. Make sure I have enough. And then I pile a bunch of rocks on top of it as well. Got some bricks as well. It helps to hold it up under the snow load, of which we get plenty here in western New York. Okay, there. Then I take my big rock and put it over this to keep that hole closed. Ugh. Nice big rock up there. We'll hold that in. And then I just kind of put these around it to keep it from blowing away. There. A nicely disguised pond pump for the winter. Then I will take all of my filtering pieces and my bag of lava rock and fertilize my garden. So the majority of the pond closing is done now. All I'm going to do is try to keep up with keeping the leaves out of it until they've all fallen and blown around. Any leaves left in there will rot and cause gases to build up over the winter. And you also can't let the ice form a solid sheet on it over the winter, or your fish that are still left in there will die. So we put a bubbler in, and it's a nice little, we used to have a heater, but the heaters kept dying. So we got a bubbler last year. And even though it looked like it was solidly frozen, the bubbler was doing the job. It kept the water clear, it kept the fish alive, and it did a great job. So what I'm going to do now is just scoop out the rest of my leaves, make sure I don't scoop out any fish or frogs along the way, and then as it gets closer to freezing time, we will put the bubbler in. Until next time, happy gardening.